It was a huge political day here in Eau Claire. The eyes of the city, the state, and the nation were all on us as the Democratic presidential candidate and both vice presidential candidates stopped here. We have full coverage of all of the events to come. So first, let's start with the rally that attracted thousands of people. Elliot Adams joins us live from the Eau Claire Event District, where Kamala Harris and Tim Walz held their event. So Elliot, talk to us about the crowd size.
Keith, according to the Harris campaign, there were over 12,000 people in attendance here today. That's evidenced by the hours and hours people spent in traffic trying to get here. I experienced that myself when I had to exit our news vehicle and walk roughly a mile just to get here in time. Despite that and a delayed start, Vice President Harris and Governor Tim Walz were met with a cheering crowd. Walz spoke first, at one point pausing his speech to help a person in the audience who had overheated. His message, though, Donald Trump wants to take the country backwards.
He knows exactly what Project 2025 will do in restricting and taking our freedoms. He knows that it rigs the economy for the super rich. If he gets a chance to go back to the White House, it will be far worse than it was 4 years ago. Raising costs for the middle class, repealing the Affordable Care Act, gutting Social Security and Medicare, the very safety nets that protect people when they're down. And, of course, banning abortions across this country with or without Congress.
Fighting for a woman's reproductive rights has been Harris's message since the beginning.
Now, more than 20 states in our country have a Trump abortion ban, many with no exceptions even for rape and incest. And if he wins, we all know he will sign a national abortion ban to outlaw abortion in every state, even in Wisconsin. But we are not going to let that happen because we trust women.
Harris got big cheers from the crowd when she thanked President Joe Biden for his service to the country, the crowd chanting, "Thank you, Joe." Harris and others today emphasized throughout today's rally that the path to the White House is through Wisconsin. This is Harris's sixth visit to the state this year and her first as a presidential candidate.
All right,
back to you,
Elliot.
Keith.
Thanks, Elliot. Harris spoke for 23 minutes this afternoon, and we have much more of her speech and Governor Walz to share. We'll bring you that in later newscasts. You can also watch the speeches on WQOW.com. Well, back to the main event, or prior to the main event, I should say. A slew of people took the stage trying to rally the crowd. Here's what they had to say.
We have to send an undeniable message this November. Don't mess with our reproductive rights, because you messed with them your first term. We're going to make it your only term.
And we lead with kindness, respect, and compassion. And those are the exact Midwestern values, qualities, and work ethic that will make Tim a great vice president.
Because we are the battleground state. Wisconsin is likely to decide who our next president is and who controls the United States Senate. And Wisconsin
Also spoke at the rally, saying he's and others like him struggled under the Trump administration.
Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz know that rural America is the backbone of our nation. It's family farms like mine that feed our country, and it's small businesses in towns like Cadott that keep our economy strong.
Danielson said Trump doesn't care about rural America and said he will be voting for Harris this November. Now, despite a few hiccups, the crowd was energized. Our own Brianna Reinhart spoke to those in attendance after the rally, and Brianna joins us momentarily here. Brianna?
This is by far the calmest it has been here all day. From the moment we set foot on the grounds to the moment people were leaving, energy was just extremely high. I was able to kind of talk to people as they're walking to their cars to hear their reaction after the rally today, and a message that really stood out to me was the message of hope and joy.
She was very inspiring. Her message of hope, especially with Tim Walz talking about Midwesterners, it's very true. Like, we care about lending and helping him, and that really resonated with me and a lot of people.
Oh, extremely high energy, and everything was so positive. Every single one of the speakers, the audience, Yes, it was a very joyous occasion.
That's what I think of joy. You know, it was upbeat. I couldn't believe the crowd. I mean, it was huge. And we lost our voice.
It's hopeful. And that's, I think, what I'm looking for is hope rather than fear. And being afraid of everything and that everything is bad and awful. She offered a way out of that. And so I hope that that's what people want to follow.
I know we did a lot of "we're not going back" chants. Started in Milwaukee. So glad it's still going, because it's really like the essence kind of the whole campaign that I agree with. Is like, we're not going back. We're really excited for the future, especially my future as a high schooler. I'm looking forward, 2030s, 2040s, you know, she's leading us forward.
We also ran into a good friend of Governor Tim Walz after the event. You can hear reaction from him tonight at 6. Reporting in Eau Claire, I'm Brianna Reinhart.
All right, thanks, Brianna. We're looking forward to hearing more coming up at 6. Now, Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance looked to send a contrasting message from Harris, speaking this afternoon also in Eau Claire. News 18's Toby Moore was there with more on what Vance is saying to the people of western Wisconsin. Toby?
Yeah, Keith, the Ohio senator and Donald Trump's running mate spoke to the media in Eau Claire this afternoon at Woolard International Manufacturing. At the same time, Vice President spoke to the accomplishments of the Biden administration. Vance tried to send a different message.
She has not been a good vice president for the American people.
Speaking to the media in Eau Claire, Vance painted a different picture from Harris's rally, criticizing her job as vice president, specifically on border security, fentanyl, and the U.S. reliance on energy from overseas.
I don't think she deserves a promotion. I think she deserves to be fired.
Why did you choose to speak here in Eau Claire today, the same time as Harris?
Well, we wanted to make sure there was a contrast, in part because the media has been so dishonest about Kamala Harris's record, and in part because they refused to ask her questions. We wanted to make sure that there was at least somebody out there providing an alternative story.
Vance also criticized Harris's newly announced running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, for his handling of the riots in recent years in Minneapolis, saying he would like to debate Walz.
I want to debate Governor Walz because nothing to do with Governor Walz, but because the American people deserve to see the people who want to be their vice president stand before them and try to persuade them.
Vance's event was not open to the public, but that didn't stop some supporters.
God bless America and God bless Trump
From gathering outside.
We're here to show our support in God's chosen men for the presidency to make America great again.
Vance spoke for about a half hour. It took about a dozen questions from reporters on election integrity, manufacturing jobs, and the Harris-Walz ticket. You can watch the full press conference on WQOW.com.
All right, thanks, Toby. Now, Senator Vance did stop for ice cream after his press conference in Eau Claire.
What is that? You know, Joel, we're counting on you guys.
Vance headed over to Olson's Ice Cream downtown Eau Claire. During his stop, he talked with some guests, autographed a shirt, and even gave one little girl a hug before exiting the shop. Vance ordered a small dish of mocha mud pie ice cream. Both Vance and Kamala Harris made stops at Eau Claire shops following their independent events. Well, this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as our coverage goes. We did carry both events live on air, and it's impossible to fit it all into one newscast. At 6 tonight, though, hear about a bonus stop that the vice president made after the rally. Well, let's get a check of the weather now with Storm Tracker 18 Chief Meteorologist Matt Schaefer. Matt?
Well, Keith, today was fairly mild. We did have some sunshine earlier. The clouds started to move in here in the last few hours. You can see that here live at Phoenix Park, cloud cover, along with a few drops of rain possible here this evening. Right now it's 75 degrees, and the airport is reporting mostly sunny, though it is still, I would say, the brightness of the sun coming through these clouds. It is a fairly cloudy sky right now. Breeze out of the south-southwest at about 10 miles per hour. And there are some showers on radar. Now, a lot of this, especially over here, is not reaching the ground. We're starting to see some yellows, though, show up here in Pierce County, approaching Durand. That's likely a shower that's going to be reaching the ground at least a little bit. And we're going to continue to have these light showers scattered throughout the night. So a chance for a shower at any time here in the next couple hours. Then maybe a little break with just an isolated shower or two through the later evening, with them returning overnight and into tomorrow morning. I'll have more details in about 8 minutes.
All right, thanks, Matt. A former Wisconsin prison warden charged with misconduct appeared in a Dodge County courtroom yesterday. Randall Hepp pleaded not guilty to one felony charge. tied to the death of 2 inmates at the Waupun Correctional Institution since 2023. According to court documents, one of the inmates died of a stroke, the other died of dehydration. Hepp worked at the prison and retired in June. The former warden, along with 8 staff members, are charged with various felonies tied to those incidents. Hepp is due back in court on September 30th. In national news, abortions are on the rise in the U.S. even after the restrictive Dobbs decision. Despite bans that have taken effect in the last 2 years, abortions are averaging nearly 99,000 per month in the first quarter of 2024. That is about 14% higher than during the same period last year. The data was collected by a nonprofit, which says the numbers have been driven by a surge in medication abortions. Medication abortions provided through telehealth rose 28%. 14 states have enacted bans since the High Court's Dobbs decision, preventing nearly 10,000 in-person abortions per month, according to the nonprofit. Boar's Heads Meats is now facing a potential class action lawsuit after that deadly listeria outbreak was linked to its deli meats. The lawsuit was filed in New York District Court August 1st. The plaintiff alleges the company misled its consumers by not properly warning them of the contamination in its initial July 25th recall. That recall involved 200,000 pounds of its ready-to-eat and deli meat products. The recall was expanded days later to include 7 million pounds of its meat products. As of last week, 34 illnesses have been reported in 13 states, including 2 deaths. Still to come, Tropical Storm Debbie is strengthening and is setting its sights on the East Coast. We'll have the latest on the storm after the break.